year I get to see what you guys have come up with, and this year you've come up with something really special. So I'm gonna go sit down and watch what you guys have to say about this, because this looks really cool. So
okay,
stage Ernst, and by the way, stay to the right of the white line, whatever you do. Sorry.
This line?
Yeah, that line. There you go. You're okay there.
Well, thanks for coming here to listen to what we have to say, and thanks to Elvis Presley for having us here. We need to set the stage for what we're going to talk about, so we have to go back in time. The year is 1956. That's what this new release is all about. And in 1956, when we started on January 1st, nobody really knew what rock and roll was. The first rock and roll album that came out was Bill Haley's first album. Did pretty well. It went to number 19. But that was really what it meant to the music industry. I mean, all of us who are educated about music know that they should have known better, because Little Richard had made Tutti Frutti, Chuck Berry had done Maybelline. There was a lot of great R&B groups, and Elvis had obviously done 5 singles at Sun, but he was still only the most promising new country artist, nothing on a national scale. So what we get into here is the year where all that changed. Elvis became a phenomenon in the music business and dominated that year like no artist has ever dominated any year ever. He was number 1, 26 out of the 52 weeks of that year. And at times during the year, 10 out of the 100 cuts on Billboard's Hot 100 were Elvis. And yeah, nothing like that had ever happened before, and I don't think it happened since. I'm sure Beatles were close, but another thing happened at the label that we think of as RCA. They called themselves Victor at the time. They had a few monstrous sellers in the catalog that had sold 100,000 copies, one that even had sold 200,000. But when Elvis's debut album came out, and remember it was a debut album by somebody who nobody really knew when they were putting the album together again. Nobody got an album if they weren't already popular, but Elvis did. And that album sold 300,000 in just a few months. That was 100,000 more than the biggest selling album that Victor ever had. And it was only to be eclipsed by an album that came out in October, which was Elvis's second album that sold even more. So this is the setting for what we have worked on for many, many months at Sony. All the group that Roger and I are privileged to work with have been supportive. So has EPE, who's helped us with a lot of the material that is inside the wonderful book that comes with this. But let's just dwell with the music first. We have a package. I don't know if we can actually handle it. We try and show that it does have 5 CDs inside. It looks like this. And what we have tried to do is to catch that moment in time, the year 1956, going into extreme detail about what happened in Elvis's career, getting rid of all the nonsense that you can read so many places and go back to the facts. But it all starts with the music, and this is in principle a double album of Elvis's first 2 album releases. We put them together here, but that's not all. But it is a tribute to those 2 albums. We added all the other masters, of course, all the hit singles, all the material from Love Me Tender, and that's, you know, a lot of tracks on 2 CDs with all Elvis's 56 masters here collected for those who want to see this as a historical piece of where Elvis was. But we added 3 more hours of material. We added a complete CD of outtakes, the complete session where Elvis records Shake, Rattle and Roll and Lord Miss Claudia, all 12 takes of them, so you can actually get to listen to what Elvis was like in the studio. You see, Elvis was something more than an artist. He was his own producer. In 1956, nobody was his own producer, but he was. That was another first. And you hear him working through the song's titles until he's got the right feeling. We've also added a lot of interviews here that some people will know, most people won't. From the early interview that Elvis did at the Warwick Hotel in the early parts of '56, where you still hear the insecure young man hoping that he will be successful, very, I would say, doubtful about whether this is going to last or whether this will really go where he hopes it will go, to a big and interesting interview that has been released in excerpts before of Elvis in Florida in August, where the scene has changed completely. Elvis did something on a TV show in June of '56 where he did Hound Dog, and he did something at the end of that suggested to some people that he was, I think Elvis would have said something. But there was a lot of controversy. We had this wonderful long interview where this journalist reads from a very bad review in the newspaper the day before of what Elvis was, and you hear Elvis had to defend himself, you hear the confidence, you actually see how Elvis as a person developed in those 6 months in a fascinating way. And on top of that, there's actually something that's really interesting at the end of that interview. That's an interview with Colonel Parker, explaining the whole idea about it all. And he is very, I mean, some people may not feel that Colonel always was the right person for Elvis, but he certainly was at the time. He was so savvy, he knew exactly how to do it. And Roddy, we found some really rare material throughout Frank Jerry Osborne that you might want to talk about for a little bit.
Yeah, I think referring to the spoken word material that Ernst said, obviously the Truth About Me monologue that Elvis did, it was quite difficult for us to track down quite a lot of this spoken word material, and specifically in good quality. So, as with always, we had to sort of stretch out and find people that have acquired this material over a period of time, specifically if it's not in Sony's vault anymore. And we managed to track down Jerry Osborne, who years ago produced a really good book about all of Elvis's spoken word. And one, it was a revelation, actually spending the time to read the words from Elvis during 1956. I think it's very easy under normal circumstances to skip over all of that and just listen to the music, but it's a real revelation when you read Elvis and listen to the interviews that he gave during that period, and perhaps throughout his life in truth, is that they're so honest and so real about the things he talks about. And I think The Truth About Me is an incredibly revealing work. It felt right, definitely, to have it on this package. And I think Ernst has done a terrific job in restoring the audio, and it's presented on this set along with a lot of other Elvis interviews. So I just think the spoken word is some added dimension that we wanted to give to this set.
I mean, and the two little ads at the end, I think that they're very nice.
Yes, of course. The other thing that I think the minute RCA realised they had a successful artist, which was probably within a matter of weeks, all of a sudden the people start putting the bean counters together, and apart from the millions of record sales that were coming in, people started saying, how can we use Elvis and get him to present other pieces of our product. So at the end of 1956, you're probably aware, or maybe not aware, that Elvis actually recorded some ads for RCA Victrola record players. And quite frankly, I'd never ever heard them before, and I didn't even know they existed. Again, this is something that Jerry Osborne brought to the party and was able to supply to us. And they're very short, but they're just very revealing and charming to have, because there was a lot of money spent on that promotional campaign for those record players at the end of 1956. And, you know, Elvis's image was used in huge billboard ads and lots of advertising all around the nation in America, so it was a big thing. And RCA also produced 2 exclusive Elvis Presley EPs that, you know, the material had already been available prior from the first album, but they produced these 2 EPs that were available if you bought one of the fabulous RCA record players, the best record player in the world. So, you know, RCA was sensible enough to actually use Elvis commercially over and above his hit singles and his records. And as Ernst said earlier, you know, there was no roadmap for what was happening in 1956, and certainly Elvis and the Colonel collectively, and along with an RCA record label, quickly caught up. You know, we're creating the biggest stir in the music industry, and here we are 55 years later on a stage talking about this phenomenal social and cultural event. And this is just the musical content and the spoken word content so far. So this is a really special release.